Namaste, good afternoon, and welcome to the webinar series to strengthen the construction sector of Nepal. This 4-week-long program is presented by USAID's Nepal Reconstruction Engineering Services project and managed by CDM Smith. I am Tripti Giri, currently working as the Project Controls Support Officer at CDM Smith Nepal office. I am your MC for today. आजको हाम्रो webinar series को topic रहेको छ Achieving Environmental Sustainability in Construction. हाम्रो आजको प्रोग्राम 1 घण्टा लामो हुनेछ। यो हाम्रो 11 टपिक वेबिनार सिरिज मध्येको एउटा टपिक रहेको छ। आजको प्रोग्राममा हामी ओपनिङ गर्छौं र त्यसपछि प्रेजेन्टेसन र Q&A सेसनतिर हामी लाग्ने छौं। क्वेशन एन्ड आन्सर सोध्नको लागि यहाँहरुको स्क्रिनको राइट साइडमा Q&A सेसनको बटन देख्न सक्नुहुन्छ। त्यसबाट हामीलाई रिटन क्वेशनहरु प्रेजेन्टेसनको दौरान पनि यहाँहरुले सोध्न सक्नुहुनेछ। हाम्रो क्वेशन एन्ड आन्सर सकिएपछि हामीले गेस्ट स्पिकरलाई उहाँको इनपुट दिन निम्त्याउने छौं र हाम्रो कार्यक्रम त्यसपछि क्लोज गर्ने छौं। हाम्रो प्रेजेन्टरमा सीडीएम स्मिथको तर्फबाट आज हुनुहुन्छ मिस बनिता राणा र गेस्ट स्पिकरमा रहनु भएको छ डाक्टर सुनिल बाबु श्रेष्ठ। उहाँ अहिले नास्टको नेपाल एकाडेमी अफ साइन्स एन्ड टेक्नोलोजी नास्टको करेन्ट भाइस च्यान्सलर रहनु भएको छ। हाम्रो यो 1 घण्टाको प्रोग्राममा मैले भने जस्तै यहाँहरुले क्वेशन आन्सर थ्रु आउट अहिले नै सुरु गर्नु भए पनि हुन्छ, थ्रु आउट सोध्न सक्नुहुन्छ। यहाँहरुको क्वेशन हामी क्वेशन आन्सर सेक्सनमा लिने नै छौं, तर इन केस हाम्रो टाइमको अभावले गर्दा हामीले सबै लिन सकेनौं भने यहाँहरुलाई रिटन रेस्पोन्स पनि हामीले प्रस्तुत गर्ने छौं। फ्यु नोट्सहरु आजको प्रोग्रामको लागि। यो प्रोग्राम रेकर्ड भइरहेको छ, सो हामीले यो प्रेजेन्टेसनको मटेरियल पनि यहाँहरुलाई रेकर्डिङ र क्वेशन आन्सर यहाँहरुलाई उपलब्ध गराउने पनि प्लान गरेका छौं। हाम्रो प्रेजेन्टेसनको कन्टेन्ट इंग्लिशमा भए तापनि प्रेजेन्टेसन इंग्लिश नेपाली दुईटैमा बाइलिङ्गुअल रहनेछ। हाम्रो प्रेजेन्टरहरुले आफूले बोल्ने बेलामा आफ्नो भिडियो चाहिँ स्विच अन गर्न नभुलिदिनु होला। आजको सेसन अटेन्ड गर्नु भएको बापत यहाँहरुलाई हामीले फिडब्याक फर्म को पनि व्यवस्था गरेको छौं। यो फिडब्याक फर्म भर्नु भएमा यहाँहरुलाई सर्टिफिकेट अफ पार्टिसिपेसन पनि प्रेजेन्ट गरिनेछ। यो फिडब्याक फर्मको लिंक चाहिँ हाम्रो प्रेजेन्टेसन सकिएपछि यहाँहरुसँग अनाउन्समेन्टमा यही क्वेशन आन्सर सेसनको सेक्सनमा यहाँहरुलाई प्रोवाइड पनि गरिनेछ। आजको प्रोग्राम सुरु गर्नको लागि ओपनिङको लागि म सीडीएम स्मिथको तर्फबाट मिस्टर अर्जुन कोइरालालाई केही शब्दहरु भनिदिनु हुन रिक्वेस्ट गर्छु। उहाँ हाम्रो डेप्युटी चीफ अफ पार्टी एनआरईएस प्रोजेक्टको रहनु भएको छ। अर्जुन सर, इफ यू क्यान प्लिज स्टार्ट द प्रोग्राम फर टुडे। थ्यांक यू।
धन्यवाद तृप्ति जी। यहाँहरु सबैलाई मेरो हार्दिक नमस्कार तथा आजको यो कार्यक्रममा हार्दिक स्वागत पनि छ। यो USAID नेपालबाट अर्गनाइज भइराखेको वेबिनार सिरिज जुन 11वटा सिरिजहरुमा छन्, खास गरी कन्स्ट्रक्सन सेक्टरलाई स्ट्रेन्थेन गर्नको निमित्त सघाउ पुगोस् भन्ने उद्देश्यले गरिराखिएको छ। यसलाई सीडीएम स्मिथ यो US बेस्ड आर्किटेक्चरल एन्ड इन्जिनियरिङ कन्सल्टिङ फर्म हो, उसको चाहिँ व्यवस्थापनमा अगाडि लागिराखिएको छ। USAID नेपालका चाहिँ उल्लेख्य दात्री निकायहरू मध्ये एक हो, जुन विगत 70 वर्षदेखि नेपालको शैक्षिक क्षेत्र, स्वास्थ्य, त्यसपछि गभर्नेन्स, एग्रिकल्चर, डिजास्टर रिकन्स्ट्रक्सन लगायतका विभिन्न क्षेत्रहरूमा सहयोग पुर्याउँदै आइरहेको छ। सीडीएम स्मिथ भने अमेरिकामा बेस्ड भए पनि इट्स अपरेटिङ ग्लोबल्ली र खास गरी यो वाटर सप्लाई सेनिटेसनको सेक्टरमा, त्यसपछि ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन, फेसिलिटिज, इन्भाइरोमेन्टका सेक्टरहरूमा चाहिँ एउटा ज्यादै नै चिनिएको कन्सल्टिङ फर्मको रूपमा आएको छ र नेपालमा अहिले खास गरी यो भूकम्पले क्षति गरेका शिक्षा र स्वास्थ्यका संरचनाहरूको पुनर्निर्माणमा यो संलग्न भइरहेको अवस्था छ। र यो आजको वेबिनार यहाँहरूले टपिक जानकारीमा लिइसक्नु भएको छ, एचिभिङ इन्भाइरोमेन्टल सस्टेनेबिलिटी इन कन्स्ट्रक्सन भनेर। खास गरी यो कन्स्ट्रक्सनसँग आबद्ध हुने विभिन्न विषयहरू जस्तो कन्स्ट्रक्सनको लागि कन्स्ट्रक्सन साइटकै सेलेक्सनको कुराहरू, त्योसँग चाहिँ नि सामाजिक रूपमा जोडिएका पक्षहरू, वातावरणीय रूपमा जोडिएका पक्षहरू, त्यसका डिजाइनका विषयहरू, कन्स्ट्रक्सन साइटमा अपनाउनु पर्ने हेल्थ एन्ड सेफ्टीका विषयहरू, अझै खास गरी अहिले यो कोभिड-19 को कन्टेक्स्टमा सघन रूपमा अपनाउनु पर्ने विषयहरूको लगायत कन्स्ट्रक्सन प्रोजेक्टलाई कसरी म्यानेज गर्न सकिन्छ, स्केड्युलिङको चाहिँ च्यालेन्जिङ कुराहरू र यसको चाहिँ नि कन्स्ट्रक्सनको चाहिँ क्वालिटी एस्युरेन्स कसरी गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने विषय लगायत सोसियल इन्क्लुजनका कुराहरू र साथसाथै कन्स्ट्रक्सन सेक्टरमा इन्टिग्रिटीका विषयहरू, कोड अफ कन्डक्ट अथवा इथिक्सका कुराहरू चाहिँ नि कसरी अगाडि लान सकिन्छ भन्ने विषयहरूलाई यो इन्टिग्रेटेड गरेर यो वेबिनार प्याकेज बनाइएको छ। र आज यो खास गरी एचिभिङ इन्भाइरोमेन्टल सस्टेनेबिलिटी इन कन्स्ट्रक्सन यसको लागि हामीहरू बीच स्पिकरको रूपमा इन्भाइरोमेन्टलिस्ट बनिता राणाजी हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँ श्री स्मिथमा इन्भाइरोमेन्टल कम्प्लायन्स अफिसरको रूपमा, साथसाथै मोनिटरिङ एन्ड इभ्यालुएसन अफिसरको रूपमा चाहिँ उहाँ कार्यरत हुनुहुन्छ। क्विकली म उहाँ बनिताजीलाई चाहिँ इन्ट्रोड्युस गराउँछु। मिस बनिता राणा इज एन इन्भाइरोमेन्टल कम्प्लायन्स अफिसर एन्ड मोनिटरिङ एन्ड इन्भाइरोमेन्टल अफिसर फर evaluation officer for CDM Smith, Nepal. She's more than 20 years of experience in managing environmental and social impact assessments and also environmental monitoring and management plans of large infrastructure projects in United States, South Asia and Southeast Asia, including Nepal. She has worked in both public and private sectors. Ms. Rana holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from IIT Roorkee and a master's degree in chemical environmental engineering from Manhattan College in the US. And she also holds a master's degree in environmental management from Nicholas School at Duke University in the USA. म अब बनिताजीलाई चाहिँ आफ्नो प्रस्तुति राख्नु अनुरोध गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि आजको हाम्रो अर्को वरिष्ठ स्पिकर हुनुहुन्छ डाक्टर सुनिल बाबु श्रेष्ठ। उहाँ इन्भाइरोमेन्टलिस्ट हुनुहुन्छ, उहाँ अर्बन प्लानर हुनुहुन्छ, उहाँ सिभिल इन्जिनियरिङ ब्याकग्राउन्डबाट पनि हुनुहुन्छ र खास गरी यो अहिले करेन्टली नेपाल एकाडेमी अफ साइन्स एन्ड टेक्नोलोजीमा भाइस च्यान्सलरको रूपमा कार्यरत हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँ निकै नै एउटा नलेजेबल एकाडेमिसियन हुनुहुन्छ। नेसनल प्लानिङ कमिसनमा बसेर उहाँले निकै लामो समयसम्म योगदान गरिसक्नु भएको छ भन्ने उहाँ 20 वर्षभन्दा लामो अनुभवहरू प्राइभेट सेक्टरमा, गभर्नमेन्टको सेक्टरमा, नन गभर्नमेन्टल सेक्टरहरूमा चाहिँ उहाँले होल्ड गरिसक्नु भएको छ। स्मार्ट भिलेज, फुड ग्रिन सिटी, कोअपरेटिभ हाउसिङ र अझै खास गरी वान सिटी वाइड वान आइडेन्टिटी यस्ता विषयहरू चाहिँ उठान गरेर यसलाई व्यावहारिक रूपमा फलीभूत गराउने अहम अभियान पनि उहाँले लिनुभएको छ र सेभरल अवार्ड्सहरू उहाँले प्राप्त गरिसक्नु भएको छ। उहाँको विशेषता यी विषयहरूमा मात्रै नभएर साहित्यतर्फ पनि त्यत्तिकै चाहिँ नि रहेको छ। अरू कुनै बेलामा हामी उहाँबाट यी विषयहरू पनि सुनौला। नेपालका विभिन्न प्रोफेसनल सोसाइटीहरूमा त्यत्तिकै एक्टिभली इन्गेज हुनुहुन्छ भने इज एन एक्सपर्ट मेम्बर अफ नेपाल फोरम फर इन्भाइरोमेन्टल जर्नलिस्ट। मैले यो त अहिले सानो मात्रै जानकारी राखेँ, अहिले पछि उहाँलाई अनुरोध गर्ने समयमा उहाँको अरू थप परिचय पनि यहाँहरू माझ प्रस्तुत हुनेछ। विदाउट डिलेइङ इन्भाइटिङ बनिताजी to proceed with her presentations. Basically उहाँको प्रेजेन्टेसनमा अहिले यो इन्भाइरोमेन्टल रेगुलेसन्स खास गरी नेपालको चाहिँ नि के कस्तो छ, इन्भाइरोमेन्टल प्रोटेक्सन एक्ट्स र रेगुलेसन्सले समेटेका विषयहरू, त्यसलाई युनाइटेड स्टेट्सको चाहिँ नि रिक्वायरमेन्टहरूको बारेमा पनि अलिकति कम्पेरिजनमा राखेर त्यसको चाहिँ सन्दर्भबाट पनि अलिकति हामीलाई जानकारी राखिदिनुहुन्छ र उहाँले अलिकति हामीलाई यो इन्भाइरोमेन्टल मोनिटरिङ गर्ने र अडिटिङ गर्ने कुराहरूमा चाहिँ आज अलिकति क्यापासिटेट गर्नुहुन्छ भन्ने अब्जेक्टिभ चाहिँ नि राखेको छौँ। मैले पनि त्यो हिसाबले बुझेको छु। बनिताजी।
Okay, thank you Arjun ji and Tripti ji. Namaste and good afternoon to everyone who's present in this session. Even though you're bilingual bhane pani मेरो चाहिँ नि यो topic एकदम technical भएको हुनाले I would prefer to do this in English, so I hope you'll bear it. So the topic is achieving environmental sustainability in construction. So I will be covering 3 areas. So the first one is environmental compliance procedure in Nepal. The second one is USAID environmental procedure and doing monitoring and auditing according to that, and then sustainability certification programs. In the process of internalizing the environmental assessment system in developing proposals, the government of Nepal enacted Environmental Protection Act known as EPA 1997 and Environmental Protection Rule known as EPR 1997, which makes the integration of IEE and EIA legally binding to the prescribed projects. Now let's see what they are. So basically, EIA sets out the process of initial environmental examination known as IEE and Environmental Impact Assessment, EIA. It stipulates that no one is to create pollution that causes adverse environmental impact and then it causes harm to public health. And then it also provides protection to objects and places of national heritage and places with rare plants, wildlife, and biological diversity. Whereas in the other hand, the EPR is a stepwise process for IE and EIA. It defines which kind of project has to go through EIA and which goes through IEE. It also lists environmentally sensitive areas that require EIA, irrespective of the cost and size of the project. It also obliges the developer to timely consult and inform public on the contents of the proposal, and it contains provisions for dealing with pollution control and conservation of national heritage. Talking about this public consultation with the public, Arjunji went through a long, one webinar series on that, and that part is also equally important. If whoever has listened to that webinar attended that webinar, that part is also equally important, the similar way in environment. Now, I would like to go briefly about the difference between IEE and EIA. Well, IEE is a very, IEE is a shorter process because, as you see in the far left column, that it has a lot of procedures where IEE has to do only few parts, but EIA has to go through all of these. So the process that IE has to go through is terms of reference, like it requires terms of reference, recommendation from the concerned municipalities. It only requires 15 days of public notice in a national level daily newspaper and project site. Basically, that's all that's needed for IE, whereas EIA needs scoping, TOR, public hearing, recommendation from municipalities, open EIA and IE report for public reviews and comments, and it has to go through a review by expert committee, and so it's very long process. Even approval process is 2 to 3 months, whereas IE is only like 21 days. So looking at these requirements, sometimes EIA is such a long process that the project is killed, on its way. Now, I would like to talk briefly about what is EIA. The purpose of EIA process is to inform decision makers and public of the environmental consequences of implementing a proposed project. The EIA documents itself a technical tool that identifies, predicts, and analyzes impacts on the physical environment, as well as social, cultural, and health impacts. So if an EIA is properly done, it reduces a lot of costs on the way, and it also optimizes the project benefits. Now, going to small to medium scale public infrastructure facilities, we do have guidelines, acts, and rules for IE and EIA for any development projects. We have it for forest, road, agriculture, and drinking water sectors, but we do not have proper guidelines for small to medium scale construction of public buildings, which CDM Smith has done in its work with USAID. But these small projects do not have significant environmental impacts, and it is, even if it has, then it could be mitigated by sound environmental design and best management practice. So now I would like to talk about USAID environmental procedure and also monitoring and auditing according to that procedure. Basically, that process is known as 22 CFR 216 process, and this process is done before the implementation. The project is first screened. So there are 4 categories. The first one is like exemption, like the project gets exemption memo if no environmental review is required, and this is applicable to projects in emergency situations, whereas, for example, if there's a flood or earthquake and USAID is assisting in that area, so the project would get exemption memo. Categorical exclusion is if there's a low impact, then if there's low impact, then it could qualify for categorical exclusion. This also doesn't require any environmental review. Now, if the impact is moderate to unknown, then initial environmental examination is required, and there are 3 categories for that. The first one is negative with determination. One is without determination, the negative determination without any condition, negative determination with condition, and positive determination. And the last category is high impact. So negative determination are projects which have very low impact, and so it doesn't need to have any conditions. But negative determination, the project with the negative determination have some impacts, and it could be mitigated. So it's called negative determination with conditions. So these two, for these 2 conditions, only IE is required. But if it's positive determination where the impacts are higher, and for high impact category, then you have to do environmental assessment along with scoping with environmental assessment. So once these documents are prepared, then it's submitted to mission director and bureau environmental officer, and then it's implemented in compliance with the approved condition. So this is the process of USAID before implementation. Now I would like to quickly go to this this table. Any construction project has like 5 phases. So assessment phase, project prioritization and selection phase, selected project initiation phase, and design phase, and construction phase. So in small to medium scale construction projects, the environmental impacts or the risks are moderate. So here we demark this in moderate category, and with some mitigation, that impact is removed. So this is how we prepare for screening, and we also have to prepare preliminary environmental review checklists. This is the checklist for a school. This is actually like in other EIAs or IE, it's like a baseline study of the site, and this is basically like a yes or no questions with very few explanations. So the questions are actually very comprehensive. It covers everything basically. So for example, you have to answer like, is there grading, trenching, or excavation at the site? Does the site have geological hazards? Contaminated soil or groundwater on site or adjacent to the site? Is there off-site overburden, waste disposal, or burrow pits at the site or off-site? Is there a water body? What is the water source to the facility? Any known pollution problem at the site? Wastewater discharge from facility, toilets, are the toilets connected to septic tank and soak pits? Are there any protected areas? Do people have to be relocated? Is there any land issues with adjacent landowners? Does the construction interrupt utility services? And does the construction, does the current method of solid waste and sanitary waste disposal, what kind of method does it have? Are there any vegetation types in the region? Are there any endemic endangered species in the vicinity or at the site? And what are they if they are? What is the approximate distance to the nearest protected area? Is the facility a wetland? Are there any historic resources within 30 meters? Is the facility connected to all weather roads? So all these questions is very comprehensive, and it covers almost everything. So this is for school projects, and for healthcare facilities, there are a few more additional questions that are related to the waste management, waste disposal. So these questions are additional questions are what type of biomedical waste is generated? Like what are the current non-medical waste disposal method? What are the current biological waste disposal or handling methods? What are the current contaminated liquid waste disposal handling methods? So these are for the healthcare facilities, and all these are very, very comprehensive. So now coming to making EMMP plan, EMMP table, whatever I just said, those 5 phases, I'm just giving you an example. For example, assessment phase, like every phase will have environmental impact, like every phase, this kind of table has to be prepared, and it has environmental impacts, mitigation measures, monitoring indicators, and monitoring and reporting frequency. So for example, in assessment phase, if the impact is, if environmental concerns fail to be incorporated in the preliminary assessments, a site with important biodiversity resources could be selected, resulting in significant environmental impacts. So that could happen. So for that, we prepare critical environmental criteria shall be applied to each proposed facility. So that critical environmental criteria would be a facility, a project would not be built in a place where there's a biodiversity, or there are endangered species, or there's a wetland, you know. So we screen it off by preparing critical environmental criteria so that there will be no impacts or minimum impacts. And the monitoring indicator will be for each proposed site, this critical environmental criteria are applied. And monitoring during assessment phase, that CEC are critical environmental criteria are applied, and it's reported only one time. So this is the kind of an EMMP table that you have to prepare for all the phases, including the construction phase. Now, USAID also requires infrastructure projects to do climate risk assessment to determine what impact does project have on the climate, or what the changing climate, what impacts a changing climate might have on the project. So there are different tools to determine this climate risk. Actually, I don't want to go into detail on this. It's in the USAID website, and you can go through it. So there is a tool to determine the climate risk. Now, I would like to touch upon like USAID's environmental procedure briefly. USAID has its environmental considerations early on in the project. It's in early planning, designing, and so that all the aspects of environmental concerns are touched. Prior to implementation, all activities have to go formal EIA process defined by 22 CFR 216, which I already went through. Environmental mitigation and monitoring conditions are also in procurement instruments like contracts, awards, and operating units must report annually on the environment compliance status of each project in their portfolio, and environmental compliance documentation is maintained and used actively to manage implementation. So USAID is very thorough in its environmental requirements and standards. There are 3 different phases where different kinds of documents has to be provided in USAID process, environmental process. So one is pre-award and post-award, and at implementation and closeout. So in pre-award, deferred threshold decision, environmental assessment, initial environmental examination, request for categorical exclusion, scoping statement, integrated waste management plan, pesticide evaluation report, and safer use action plan, which is known as PERSWAP. All these documents have to be provided to USAID before the implementation starts. So at the implementation, EMMP has to be provided. And at the close of the close of the project, and after the implementation is completed, a correction action plan, environmental mitigation and monitoring report, record of compliance, and simplified request for categorical exclusion or IE amendment has to be submitted. And there will be, even though the IE is already requested, but there could be a lot of changes in IE during the planning phase or during the construction phase, so IE could be amended. It's pretty common in USAID projects. Now let me go to environmental monitoring auditing. So just a minute. So environmental auditing and monitoring are basically essential procedures for organizations that are pursuing better control of their activities to avoid environmental harms or to bring positive impacts to the environment while getting a desirable performance towards economic and social assets. So basically environmental monitoring provides feedback about the actual environmental impacts of a project. It enables to see if the mitigation measures have been implemented successfully in protecting the environment. It also ensures compliance with environment standards and facilitates any needed project design or operational changes. So these are very important procedure, and auditing is actually a tool. Is actually a management tool for measuring the effects of certain activities on the environment against set criteria set criteria or standards. These are used to help improve existing human activities with the aim of reducing the adverse effects of these activities on the environment. So both auditing and monitoring are towards reducing the impacts or identifying the impacts, so that the impacts doesn't go worse. Basically, in these kind of small to medium scale projects, the activities are like site clearances, excavation, dust, noise, air quality, combustion, asbestos removal and disposal, anti-termite treatment, leakage and spills, solid waste management, healthcare waste management, drinking water. So these are monitored and these are also audited. This is the site audit. And this is the right side is documentation audit, where the assumptions are audited, weekly checklists if they are filled out correctly or not. These are audited, monthly, quarterly logs, and different forms that are required in the EMMP and the photographs. So monitoring is done maybe like monthly basis, but audits are done at quarterly basis. So audits are very thorough than monitoring. Basically, when you go for audit, so these are the things that you audit in these different activities. For example, in site clearance, no trees are cut unless it's avoidable. And if it's removed, then it has to be planted in more than 1:1 ratio, so that you maintain that greenery. In excavation, the shoring is provided in erosion-prone areas. If any excavation is done, it has to be covered if it's done in rainy season, and there will be no excavation in rainy season. And regarding masks, they are mandatory in dust-prone areas, and the stockpile has to be covered with tarpaulin, or water has to be sprinkled to minimize dust. Noise control, like wherever there are high level of noise produced for a longer period of time, you have to have some kind of mitigation measures. In Nepali context, earplugs are the best. And no open pit burning is done at the site or the workers' camp. If there is a need for, if there is asbestos found and it has to be removed and disposed, then standard operating procedure is required. For anti-termite treatment, per swab, as I said before, is required. And for fuel like diesel, petrol, there has to be a designated area at any site so that the accidents are avoided. And there has to be a proper waste management plan during construction, and reduce, reuse, recycle and repair are used wherever it's possible. And alternative safe drinking water has to be installed wherever safe drinking water is not available. For example, these places could have RO filters, reverse osmosis filters, to protect the workers and the staff to have any water-related diseases. Now, I'll be coming to the third part. It's about environmental sustainability. Sustainability is a buzzword these days. It's been for a while. Now, like when we are talking about compliance, we're talking about risks. But sustainability will go towards profit making, you know. So what is environmental sustainability? So it is responsibly reacting with the planet to maintain natural resources and not jeopardize the ability for future generations to meet their needs. So we have to use the natural resources in such a way that we don't use it up all. So it has to be left for many generations, many hundreds of years. There will be people who would need. So we have to be mindful of those future generations. So what are the advantages of this sustainability? So sustainability gives institutional stability. It continues operation and maintenance of project facilities. It provides continuous flow of net benefits. It maintains environmental stability. It provides equitable sharing and distribution of project benefits. It provides continued community participation. So there are many advantages. So these days, more and more firms are trying to go towards sustainability. Now, there are principles of sustainability. It's based on 3 pillars: social development, environmental protection, and economic development. If any one of this pillar is weak, then the system doesn't work. Now, I would like to touch briefly upon sustainability certification programs. There are many out there. For example, there's like LEED, Energy Star Program, BREEAM USA, Green Globes, WELL, Living Building Challenge, Zero Energy Building. So there are so many, these are just a few. But LEED is the front runner in this certification. So I would like to talk a little bit about this LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. So far, 2.4, and actually this is given by associated with US Green Building Council, which is known as US GBC. So far 2.4 million plus square feet of LEED is certified every day, and there are 94 projects using LEED. And LEED is applicable to all kinds of buildings like mixed use, commercial, residential, any kind of buildings can have LEED certification. And it is actually in 165 countries and territories. LEED has like different categories. Like it's like four types of LEED certification you can get. One is just LEED certified, which you have to get 40 to 49 points. The other is silver, 50 to 59. Gold, 60 to 79, and platinum is 80 plus points. So these are the categories. And why do we go towards LEED certification or any certification program? Is because when we try to make the building LEED certified or any certification, then it lowers. We design in such a way that it lowers operating costs and increases asset values. It reduces waste sent to the landfill. Then it conserves energy and water. Indoor air quality will be so good that the occupants will have healthier and safer lifestyles, and it reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So, so far from the analysis and survey, it is found out that energy use decreases from 24 to 50%, and CO2 reduces 33 to 39%. Water use goes down by 40%, and solid waste goes down by 70%. So this slide shows the potential saving in 5 major cost areas from sustainable building management practice for a theoretical 250 square foot building in San Francisco. So sustainability in return in practice. So how much cost is saved is what this slide is trying to show. So so it's waste, the cost in waste is saved by 25%, repair works is saved by 19%, electricity 17%, and other utilities 10%, and insurance 5%. So there's a lot of cost saving that happens when you go towards sustainability certification programs. So now I would like to, this is my last slide, and I would like to talk about even though Nepal doesn't have any certification programs, not that I know of, but actually in our design, we are trying to go towards that. We're striving towards that goal. So how are we doing that? Is like we have ventilation and natural lights, which lowers operating costs. We have recycle and repair, which reduces waste. We use solar panels, ventilation, and natural lights, which brings energy efficiency, and we do rainwater harvest, which brings water efficiency, and there's ventilation and light. Again, ventilation light also makes the indoor air quality better, so people have better lifestyles, like healthier life. And there's a vertical garden, indoor plants, and tree plantation, which reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So basically, all of the criteria that I mentioned in sustainability certification program is actually, we've been doing it in our design. So, so this is all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time and and coming here to listen to this webinar. So this is it. I'm ready to answer any questions if you have. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Banita ji. So we did receive a lot of questions actually. So yeah, तपाईहरुले यो QA section मा राख्नु भएको questionहरुलाई नै मैले दुई तीनटा चाहिँ pick गरेर I'm going to ask her for the answers. तपाईहरुलाई अघि भनेको जस्तै हामी यो written response पनि after the event in the near future हामी provide नै गर्ने छौं. अहिलेको लागि अर्को एउटा इन्फर्मेसन पनि सो सुन या अनाउन्समेन्ट सेक्सनमा यो लाइभ Q&A च्याटको सेक्सनमा यु विल सी अ लिंक फर फिडब्याक फर्म त्यो पनि भरिदिनु होला. त्यो लिंक भर्नु भएमा यहाँहरुलाई सर्टिफिकेट अफ पार्टिसिपेसन पनि प्रदान गरिनेछ. सो मैले अब फ्यु क्वेशनहरु लाइक आई सेड मैले सिलेक्ट गरेर यहाँ रेडी गराएको छु. सो आई एम गोइङ टु आस्क दिस इन अर्डर. So let's start with the EIA and IEE. हामीले सुरुमा यो प्रेजेन्टेसनमा त्यहीबाट सुरु गरेका थियौं हैन. हाम्रो क्वेशन चाहिँ के आको छ भने how can you compare EIA and IEE in terms of budget? So how does EIA help in reduce project cost? भनेर क्वेशन आको छ. यसमा just to give a little more context to this, if you can also talk about how is EIA and IEE how can it be applied in a realistic manner rather than a formality? So I think this is more of in context of Nepal. हामी जे देखिरहेको छौं त्यही नै क्वेशन सोध्नु भएको छ. So the question for you, Banita ji, I'm going to repeat again, is एउटा चाहिँ EIA र IEE comparison in terms of budget. So how does it help reduce project cost, and how can these practices be done in a more realistic manner rather than just on papers?
Okay, for example, the answer to the first question is, if we are very careful in identifying the impacts, then if we mitigate that early on, then it saves a lot of money than trying to solve it after. So that's why like a proper thorough EIA identifies all the impacts, and then it has mitigation measures in place so that when the project goes into implementation, when the project is completed, then there'll be very less impacts. Otherwise, if we overlook some of the impacts, then then it'll come after the project is constructed, and then we have to try to mitigate that. That part will be very expensive. So proper EIA, that's why helps to cut. Makes the cost lower because it identifies very well early on. So what's the next question, Tripti ji?
It was related to like अब हामीले कति कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ we have seen EIA, IE done more as a formality, हैन?
Yeah.
So what are maybe the best practices or even examples of making it a more realistic and a live document?
In Nepali context, EIA is very lengthy process. I have some years of experience here, and it's very lengthy. I think as I went through a lot of, that table where I specified different, requirements. So those could be cut down on a practical level, like, I mean, and also like after you submit to get it approved is like takes 3 months. You can cut down in that timing. The recommendations from the local authority could be obtained really fast. So there are many ways that you can do it faster, but in Nepal it takes very long time. So it's very frustrating, and the project never materializes because of that. So I think these processes have to be practically shortened. The time has to be shortened to achieve those what I showed in like slide 4 or 5, and the EIA will be completed like faster. When it's completed faster, then it becomes more interesting, and that has to be the practice. But it hasn't happened so far.
This may just one thing that I want to add since I see this question as well. Yei kurama, how do you ensure the quality of the document? त्यसमा पनि if you have any maybe experiences or good examples you can share.
I think like for example, I mean, if you are at the reviewing side, at the government side, there are different categories of EIA. Like you have to see physical environment, biological environment, and socio-economic and cultural. So most of the time in Nepali context, that everything is seen by one person. So it's maybe that's why also it takes longer time, because that person might not have all the speciality. So I think these. The experts have to be like different for that 3 areas, and then like I think the process will be faster also, because like 3 people will be seeing 3 different areas, of their expertise, which also will shorten the time, number of people and people with that area of expertise. So that's what I suggest. But in government office, like the approving agency, like Ministry of Environment and Forest, I mean, so far my experience, there used to be only one person, so it took a long time because that person's was already like filled with a lot of EIAs to review, So I think there should be each person of expertise in each area will be the solution, I think.
Thank you. So the next question is, actually this might be a very broad topic. That if you can quickly give a response to this. This is going back to the topic that we are talking about. So what is achieving environment sustainability in construction? How do we define environmental sustainability, especially when it comes to construction? And if you can share like maybe some indicators, some benchmarks that comes on top of your head, since I believe there are a lot of them, and also maybe provide practical examples of how in a construction project environment sustainability can be implemented. And Ismail, you can maybe talk about some best practices and practical examples.
Actually, I'll go back to the slides. The last slide I showed had all the answers. Even if we do not have any sustainability certification programs here, but we are actually these new practices, we are actually trying to be sustainable and, trying to have those sustainability elements there. For example, as I said before, ventilation and natural lights lowers the operating cost. Ventilation and natural light makes the indoor air quality better, airflow is better, and there's natural light, so automatically, and waste reduction, we are always trying to recycle and repair, like these are all my construction experiences. And energy efficiency, like water efficiency, if you have rainwater harvest will make give you water efficiency. Energy, like using solar panels, ventilation, natural lights, energy efficiency. And reduction in greenhouse, like vertical garden, indoor plants, and tree plantation around the building will reduce greenhouse gas. So all these elements have been incorporated in our designs, that the projects that we have done, and the current projects that are out there, So it's already there.
Okay. So now that you've mentioned your कुरा चाहिँ राख्नु पर्छ भनेर हैन environmental side बाट हेर्दाखेरि, so what what can be done in the early phase of project initiation? So what is the environmental provision that can be considered while preparing maybe a detailed project report, or just in the initial phase? What
you mean
would
design?
you suggest that the process should be like?
You mean like, for example, like, you know, in my experience working in CDM Smith, we had like pre-design meetings. We had like 20%, 50% design that phase. We had, you know, we suggested to, you know, like we suggested that the design should have ventilation and natural lights, you know, made in such a way. Like, these are the things that can be done right now, you know. And for example, there was a waste disposal area in like medical, like healthcare construction. There's a designated area for waste disposal, and a lot of it will be actually recycled. You can pick and choose stuff which could be recycled and repaired. You know, like so we made sure that in the design those elements are there. And energy efficiency, like as wherever it's possible, like you put solar panels, you know, and also ventilation and natural light. Everything is ventilation and natural light. So we have made sure that in the design, early on in the design, these things have been implemented. And in our projects, it has been. So it comes with the design, basically, the answer.
Yes. So linking construction to, I know this might be like a little bit off topic, is the question so how can we evaluate impact of a bigger problem that we are facing, such as climate change, on structures for sustainable construction? So I know the answer might be very vast, as well, but if you can just maybe, like, you know, give one or two tips on that.
Climate change is a very big topic, and it has its own area, you know. But you have to make the structures climate resilient. So use of proper materials is what I would say right now, and also like you know, like you should choose a place where it's not affected by, you know, all these climate changes like landslides and heavy rain. And, you know, when you select, you know, selection of the site, also you have to make sure that these sites are climate resilient, and materials, you know, building materials. Yeah, these are the few things that I think I can think of right now.
Yeah, we can probably list down more things when we are actually working on the written answers.
Yes.
I'll take one last question. I need time-wise, Pani. We still want to stick to our 1 hour program. So this will be the last question. And like I've mentioned before, हाम्रो क्वेसनहरु कुनै छुटेमा या अझ डिटेलहरु चाहिएमा चाहिँ हामी written response पनि यहाँहरुलाई provide गर्ने नै छौं. So the question goes like this: in the name of construction, government focuses more on project cost than the impact on the environmental aspects. As an engineer, specifically a civil engineer, how can we make a sustainable and sound construction? So maybe you can give your views on, you know, like from an individual level, how can you try to, you know, focus on the environmental impacts rather than the other things that come in between during a project?
It's very important to identify the impacts and then allocate the cost for the mitigation. Of course, that probably will make the, you know, cost of the project a little bit higher, but later, you know, if we don't do that, then the project cost would go higher to mitigate that, which could have done before, you know. So you have to find that balance, you know. I mean, of course, definitely the project cost, I mean, the developer wants the project to be built at a lower cost, but then you cannot also just overlook the environmental impacts, because later on you have to mitigate that. And we have, like in Nepal right now, like there's a new law which has come, and like Environmental Act 2076, which is even stringent than 2054 Act, you know. So you have to pay, if you, as I said before, if you create pollution, you have to compensate for that. So that's why it's better to have a proper EIA and have all the mitigation measures, and then go forward, you know, to finish the project. rather than wait, later on and have impacts and then try to mitigate. So it's sort of like, of course you want to lower the cost, the developer, but then you cannot, because you have to mitigate all those adverse environmental impacts. There's no way.
Thank you. So again, what I'm getting out of this is also pre-planning is very important. You have to include environmental aspects, since there are laws guiding that as well. That should also be included. And so this is something that can be considered or should be considered from the beginning of a project. So that is all we are taking for the questions. About saying, our next program ma हाम्रो guest speaker लाई निम्त्याउँदैछु. हाम्रो Banita ji, if you can go to the slide showing his details. I'll be reading out a few things about him, and the rest you can read it in the slide itself. हाम्रो as a guest speaker मा हुनुहुन्छ Dr. Sunil Babu Shrestha. He is the current Vice Chancellor and an academician at Nepal Academy of Science and Technology, अर्थात् NAST. He is also editor-in-chief of Nepal Journal of Science and Technology. Dr. Shrestha has served the nation 2 times in 2009 and from 2015 to 18 as a member of National Planning Commission under Government of Nepal, with portfolio covering housing and urban development, water supply and sanitation, science and technology, local development and federal affairs, and public-private partnership. Dr. Shrestha has gained more than 20 years of experience working in different private, government and non-government organizations in various professional and administrative capacities. He has also served as the member of task force formed by Ministry of Education, Science and Technology under Government of Nepal to draft policy on technical and vocational education and skill development and national qualification framework in 2018. He has been honored with many medals and awards, as you can see listed in the slide. Including the medal, which is Mahendra Vidya Bhushan Class A in 2005 from the head of the state. He's the fellow member of Nepal Engineers Association and active life member of the professional societies like Regional and Urban Planners Society of Nepal, अर्थात् रूपसन, Nepal PhD Association, Nepal GIS Society, and Nepal Council of World Affairs. Dr. Shrestha is also an expert member of Nepal Forum for Environmental Journalists. Like I said, more details on him and his experience, achievements have been listed in the slide. So I really would like to invite our guest speaker for today to give his inputs. Thank you so much for being here, sir, and you can take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tirupti, for your kind my introductions. How much time for me?
So you have about 8 minutes is fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Distinguished participants, presenter, moderator, and ladies and gentlemen, I use all very good afternoon and namaste. I would like to start with saying the quotation by famous American cultural anthropologist Dr. Margaret Mead: "A small group of thoughtful people could change the world. Indeed, it's only the thing that ever has." I also believe that the discussion, the opportunities among the stakeholders, experts, and the provided by this kind of this webinar series can make a difference in the construction sector of Nepal. Therefore, I would like to thank the organizer of the webinar series, the USAID Nepal Reconstruction Engineering Services in NRES project for the invitation to participate me and giving an opportunity to put my opinion on achieving the environmental sustainability in construction sector of Nepal. I had a great pleasure in observing this today's presentation from Mrs. Banita Rana, environmental expert of CDM Smith, and she had given a nice presentation with highlighting the legal framework in Nepal, describing the environmental protection EPA 1997 and the environmental protection regulations, EPR, environmental compliance in construction project, and environmental management and monitoring plan, comparing the Nepal's practice and the USAID requirement. The environmental monitoring and auditing is also very important procedures to achieve the sustainability, but in most of the past project, much attention has not been received as required. So it needs to be regularized properly to achieve the environmental sustainability in the construction sector of Nepal. As you all know that Nepal has rich biodiversities. It has 118 ecosystems and 75 categories of vegetations and 35 types of forest. But these resources are at increasing risks. The risk comes from the anthropogenic activities of entire world, due to which the Nepal is ranked 13th in the world in terms of the climate change vulnerability. I think for carrying out the infrastructure projects, the USAID requirement criteria of climate risk project, the climate risk assessment to determine what impact the project has on the climate and what impacts a changing climate might have on the project, has an additional values for achieving the environmental sustainability. Urbanization is going on at the rapid pace in Nepal, and buildings and the infrastructures are therefore undergoing construction in massive scale. This has also contributed significantly for increasing the greenhouse gases. The built environment, as a result of construction projects, contributes greatly to the humans' daily life, but the processes involved and the management constructions products adversely impact the environmental, so that the construction sector has been labeled as one of the major contributors to the greenhouse gas emissions. The construction sectors, by its nature, is a large user of the natural resources, from energy uses to the emissions. The construction sector has a huge impact on the environment. The equipment used in construction consumes the heavily fossil fuels. The fabrication and transportation of materials can have a great impact on the carbon emissions. Mining for raw materials can result in the pollution of land and the local water tables, and also the disturbance in natural system. In global context, the construction sector accounts for 36% of the worldwide energy uses and 40% of the CO2 emissions. As a result of construction works, hazardous waste may produce, and if it is not disposed properly, then such waste can have a pollutions on the surrounding environment. Not only that, but it also have the bad impact to the health of the living people in that area. Therefore, the sustainable construction method has to be practiced to achieve the sustainability in the construction sector. This may include using the renewable and the recyclable resources, and reducing the energy consumptions and the waste during the construction process, creating a healthy and environmentally friendly working environment, protecting the natural environment. And with an increasing amount of the attention of environmental impact constructions sector in Nepal, I emphasize here it is better to adopt the sustainable construction methods, from planning and design of the construction projects, procurement, products and processing, as well as the supervision. Therefore, the proper practices as directed by the EPR, Environmental Protections Act, and Environmental Protection Regulations are also vital. It is also necessary to have a regular research-based update of EPA and EPR are also useful for impactful results. I believe if we can be if we can able to boost the green credentials in this sector, will also boost to the natural and the surrounding environment, so that it helps to enhance the reputation of this sector. So ISO 14001 certification demonstrates the commitment to the environment, so that it is recommendable to take this kind of the certification for the construction sector to achieve the sustainability. I present the various dimensions of the construction sector. To achieve the sustainability is not very strong due to the lack of the research-based feedback in the local context. NAST, as an apex body of science and technology, and the National Research Institute is trying its best towards the betterment of the planet, people, and the prosperity with a partnership approach with the vision of science for society and innovation for prosperity. Housing and buildings are one of the major components of the construction sectors. In response to the sustainable construction and operation of buildings, now the concept of new green building is coming up, but the affordability was the greatest challenge. Understanding the long-term benefit and values of the environment, demonstrating the sense of corporate or social responsibility, and reducing the operation cost, demand of the green buildings is also increasing in Nepal. To reduce the cost of construction and operation in the green buildings, use of local materials and technology, research, innovation and development has a great importance. That's why the Nepal Academy of Science and Technology (NAST) has initiated the establishment of the National Building Research Center at NAST in collaboration with the stakeholders like other government institutions, private sectors, professional societies, NGOs, and also we are going to establish soon the Center of Innovations for Prosperity at NAST. As the USAID being one of the major development partners of Nepal, I urge the USAID program to support the NAST initiation for the National Building Research Center and the Center of Innovation for Prosperity for its capacity building to become a resourceful leading scientific institution of Nepal, capable enough to intervene positively for the sustainable development efforts of Nepal and hence uplift the quality of life as targeted by the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. I also expect to receive the implementable resolutions of the webinar series to decide future course of actions in the construction sector of Nepal. Once again, I am very much thankful to the organizers for providing me this opportunity to share my views, and I also wish for the grand success of this event and the USAID initiations to strengthen the construction sector of Nepal. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have come to the end of the program. We have received the information through the presentation and a very good input from Dr. Shrestha here. Again, a reminder, like feedback form could link share by Sakeko. So please give us feedback on what you thought of this program and let us know if we can improve further. For closing, I would like to invite again Mr. Arjun Koirala to share a few words on his side and officially close the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. धन्यवाद तृप्ति जी. खास गरी यो achieving environmental sustainability in construction यो यसमा छलफल गर्नमा यसका विषयवस्तुहरू केलाउन र बुझ्न त्यति सजिलो छैन, तर आज हाम्रा स्पिकरहरूले यसलाई बडो सरल भाषामा र खास गरी नेपालको इन्भाइरोमेन्टल लेगल फ्रेमवर्कको कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ राखिदिनु भएको छ। उहाँहरूले विश्लेषणात्मक प्रस्तुतिहरू पनि राखिदिनु भएको छ। त्यो हाम्रो लागि भोलिको दिनमा निकै सघाउ पुर्याउने हुन्छ भन्ने मैले मानेको छु। मैले यो अर्थमा पनि मानेको छु कि यहाँ अहिले प्रस्तुतिमा निकै सरल रूपमा इन्भाइरोमेन्टल स्क्रिनिङ अथवा रिभ्यूका चेकलिस्टहरू हामीलाई चाहिँ प्राप्त भयो। त्यस्तै गरी मिटिगेसन र मोनिटरिङ प्लानको लागि कस्तो खालको फर्म्याटहरू चाहिँ हुन सक्छन् र ती फर्म्याट कस्ता खालका कन्टेन्टहरू चाहिँ रहन्छन् भन्ने कुराहरू पनि सेयर भएको छ। यसले हामीलाई चाहिँ हामीले गरिरहेको अहिलेसम्मको अभ्यासहरूसँग त्यसलाई कम्पेयर गरेर अझ केही थप सिकाएको ठाउँहरू छन् भन्ने त्यो पाटो पनि अगाडि राखिदिएको छ। एउटा सघाउ भएकै छ। यो सस्टेनेबिलिटी सर्टिफिकेसन्सका एक्जाम्पलहरू पनि हामीहरू माझ यहाँ आयो र यसमा थप अझै प्रस्तुतिमा यो नेपालमा यस्तो प्र्याक्टिसेसहरू चाहिँ नि कसरी भइरहेको रहेछ त विभिन्न कन्स्ट्रक्सन सेक्टरमा र चाहिँ नि इभन लोकल गभर्मेन्टको लेभल समेतमा यो कसरी प्र्याक्टिस भइरहेको रहेछ भनेर एउटा उत्साहजनक उदाहरणहरू पनि हामी बिचमा चाहिँ यहाँ प्रस्तुताले चाहिँ राखिदिनु भएको छ। एउटा च्यालेन्ज चाहिँ क्वान्टिफाइङ यो इम्प्याक्टलाई चाहिँ कसरी क्वान्टिफाई गर्ने त, इन्भाइरोमेन्टल इम्प्याक्टलाई कसरी क्वान्टिफाई गर्ने अनि कस्तो किसिमले यसलाई एड्रेस गर्यो भने सस्टेनेबिलिटी सुनिश्चित हुन्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ ठुलो च्यालेन्जको रूपमा पक्कै रहन्छ। तर अहिले यहाँ प्रस्तुताज्यूहरूबाट हामीले थुप्रै त्यसका तरिकाहरू प्राप्त गरेको छौँ। जस्तै अहिले हामीसँग इन्टरनेसनल एयरपोर्टका च्यालेन्जेसहरू छन्। लार्ज हाइडल प्रोजेक्ट्सले निम्ताका चाहिँ इन्भाइरोमेन्टल कन्सिक्वेन्सेस रिसोर्सेस यदि यो कुराहरूलाई लिएन भने के हुन सक्ला भन्ने निताएका च्यालेन्जहरू छन्। त्यस्तै ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन नेटवर्कका कुराहरू छन् र यी चाहिँ पूर्वाधारहरूको स्केल अनुसार फरक पनि हुनसक्छ। तर पनि यी कुराहरू राखिदिनु भयो। प्रस्तुता बनिताजी जुन इन्भाइरोमेन्टल एक्सपर्ट हुनुहुन्छ उहाँलाई म धेरै धन्यवाद व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। थप एडिसनल नोट्सहरू राखिदिएर अरू विधाहरू पनि सित सँगसँगै जोडिदिनु भएको छ हाम्रो नेपाल एकाडेमी अफ साइन्स एन्ड टेक्नोलोजीका उपकुलपतिज्यू डाक्टर सुनिल बाबु श्रेष्ठजीले म्यानमेड र नेचुरल इन्भाइरोमेन्टहरूको चर्चा गर्दै सस्टेनेबल कन्स्ट्रक्सन मेथडहरू अपनाउनु पनि त्यत्तिकै महत्त्वपूर्ण हुन्छ यदि यो कन्स्ट्रक्सनमा चाहिँ नि इन्भाइरोमेन्टल सस्टेनेबिलिटी हामी खोजिरहेको छौँ भने। त्यस कारण यो प्लानिङमा डिजाइनिङमा त्यसपछि प्रोक्युरमेन्ट अथवा चाहिँ यसको सुपरभिजनको पाटोमा मात्रै नभएर यसका मेथड्स का डिटेलिङहरू पनि त्यतिकै हेर्न महत्त्वपूर्ण हुन्छ भनेर चाहिँ उहाँले जानकारी राखिदिनु भयो। र नास्टको चाहिँ नि अहिलेका एक्टिभिटीहरू नास्टको रोल र एउटा चाहिँ नि रिसर्च एन्ड डेभलपमेन्ट इन्स्टिट्युसनको हिसाबमा यो इन्भाइरोमेन्टल सस्टेनेबिलिटीको लागि भोलिका चाहिँ नि कदमहरूको बारेमा पनि उहाँले हामीलाई जानकारी गराइदिनु भयो। थुप्रै यहाँ सहभागीज्यूहरू हुनुहुन्छ विभिन्न विधाहरूबाट हुनुहुन्छ उहाँहरूको निमित्त नास्टबाट भोलि यी खालका चाहिँ नि सहयोगहरू अथवा रिसर्च एन्ड डेभलपमेन्टमा सँगसँगै हातेमालो गर्ने अवसरहरू पक्कै प्राप्त हुन्छन् होला। त्यसकारण म आजका स्पिकर नेपाल एकाडेमी अफ साइन्स एन्ड टेक्नोलोजी का भाइस च्यान्सलर डाक्टर सुनिल बाबु श्रेष्ठज्यूलाई पनि हार्दिक धन्यवाद र आभार व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। सबै पार्टिसिपेन्टज्यूहरू यहाँहरूको उत्साहजनक सहभागिता रहेको छ। त्यसकारण यहाँहरू सबैलाई म हृदयदेखि नै आभार र धन्यवाद व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। वेबिनारको हाम्रो टेक्निकल टिममा अर्जुन कुमारजी शिवजी उहाँ इन्डियाबाट हुनुहुन्छ, त्यस्तै तृप्तिजी रविजी आयुषीहरू उहाँहरूले चाहिँ नि पछाडि बसेर निकै सहयोग पुर्याउनु भएको छ उहाँहरूलाई पनि म धन्यवाद चाहिँ नि ज्ञापन गर्न चाहन्छु। र यहाँहरूलाई म स्मरण गराउन चाहन्छु हाम्रो अर्को नेक्स्ट वेबिनार सिरिज चाहिँ नि यो फ्राइडे जुलाई 24 अथवा श्रावण 9 गते छ जुन प्लानिङ एन्ड स्केड्युलिङ फर सक्सेसफुल कन्स्ट्रक्सन भनेर छ। यसमा पनि यहाँहरू सहभागी भइदिनु हुनुको निम्ति म त्यत्तिकै अनुरोध र आमन्त्रण पनि गर्न चाहन्छु र फेरि अर्को वेबिनार सिरिजमा यहाँहरूसँग भेटघाट हुन्छ भन्ने आशा लिँदै म पनि बिदा हुन चाहन्छु। फेरि पुनश्च यहाँहरू सबैलाई हार्दिक धन्यवाद र आभार व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।